In this code along exercise, we're going to add a PHP mailer script so that we can send emails from our contact form. Let's go ahead and start off by opening up Terminal. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and check my branches. So we'll go ahead and say git checkout -b, and we're going to give this branch the name of PHP Mailer. Okay. Excellent. So let's go ahead and open this up in Sublime Text. So a few things that you're going to see that I've added here is there's currently now a mailer.php file here. There's also a verification image.php, but we'll talk about those a little bit later on. The first thing I want to do is I want to retrofit my contact.html page to be able to insert the PHP mailer script into it. So the first thing I want to do is, instead of giving it the .html extension, I'm going to actually rename it with a .php extension. So I can jump back over to Terminal, and we'll go ahead and say move contact.html, and instead we'll call it contact.php. Okay. So I'll go ahead and jump back over, and we should see that updated here. So now this is called contact.php. All right. So now that this has the PHP file extension, I can insert PHP code into this HTML page here, and the snippets of PHP will be interpreted by the server before it's actually sent to the browser. Now, since I changed the name of this file, it's actually going to break the links for all the other pages that were linking to it before, though. So I want to make sure to go into the head section of each page here and go into the navigation bar here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the view here to word wrap. Okay, and you can see here inside the navigation, I have a link to the contact page here, but it's still pointing to contact.html. So I'm going to change this to .php instead. So I'll go ahead and save this page. So I'll also open up the other pages real quick, and we'll change the link there as well. So I'm going to go into index.html, and we're going to go here and change this to contact.php instead, and we'll save that. We'll also go to market report, and we'll go to the navigation, and we'll set this to contact.php instead, and we'll save the page. We'll also do it to new properties. So here in new properties, contact.php, save, and we'll also do so in the real estate listings page. So come down here and we will say contact.php. Okay. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and close out these files. We won't be needing these any longer, and I'm just going to leave the contact.php page open. So the next thing we want to do is we want to come down to the contact form here, and previously the form action was pointing toward the hashtag, which is just a placeholder really. It was basically just refreshing the page whenever we submitted the form. But now we actually want to send this form submission to the mailer.php file that I've included here. So let's go ahead and change this hashtag here in the action value to mailer.php. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And then additionally here, we're going to come down underneath the message box. So right between the text area message input and the submit button input. And here in the middle, what we'll do is we will create another input, and this one's going to be for the verification image. So here we'll say input type equals, and we'll just go ahead and set this one to a type of text. And we'll give it a name of verify. We'll also give it a class of verify-box. And we'll also write some placeholder text inside of it to give users a hint. And here we'll just write verify your human. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And underneath this, we're going to have a little image that is going to randomly generate some numbers inside of it. So we're going to use the verification image.php file to generate a verification image, and the user will have to match those numbers that they see. And this will basically prevent a bunch of like spam robots going to your website and gathering up your email and sending a bunch of spam emails to your inbox. So this will prove that the person who's filling out the form is not a machine, but is actually a human being. So here we'll want to place an image in. And for the image, we'll set this to a class of verify-image. Okay. And we will also set its src location pointing to verification image.php. Okay. And at the end of this URL, we're going to put a question mark to pass in a parameter. And here is where we will write our first snippet of PHP. Okay, so to embed some PHP here, we're going to do a less than symbol, question mark, and then the word PHP, and then a space. And we can close this out with a question mark greater than. So everything in between this little red question mark PHP and the question mark greater than symbol is actual PHP code that will be interpreted by our server before the page is passed back to the user. And here what we want to do is we want to say echo and random, which we'll use the random method, and we'll say 0, 9999. So this is going to generate a random number between 0 and 9999. So then we'll go ahead and add one last attribute here. This is just an HTML attribute called alt for the alternative text. And here we'll just say that this is a verification image. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this. Now this is going to make this section here a little bit taller because we've added in an additional input and this image here. So what I'm going to do to make up for this extra space is I'm going to make the text area a little bit shorter. So before our text area had 10 rows, and I'm going to set this to 8 rows so I can line it up with the map, which is actually the section that's floating next to it here. So let's go and take a look at the verification image.php really quick, and we'll see what it's doing with this random number here. So again, you don't need to change anything in the code here. This is already written for you. But essentially what this does is it builds a JPEG image that is 50 pixels by 30 pixels. And then it fills in the image white and it adds noise. So it's just adding pixel noise by making little dots all over the image in random places. Okay. Then it takes that random number, and based on that random number that you give it, it uses a key to generate another random number that's unknown to the user. Okay, and then it inserts that number as text inside of the image, essentially. And then at that point, what we do is we return that image. So literally what's happening here is that the SRC will actually be pointing toward a physical image location. And that image will only exist temporarily while this page is being loaded. Okay, so each time a different user visits this page, it's going to randomly generate another JPEG image that has the number inside of it. The nice thing about this is if someone writes a robot script that's going to just submit the form from your site, they won't be able to properly submit this form without being able to see the image. And a robot script can't actually see a JPEG image. It takes human eyes to recognize the shape of the numbers inside of the physical image. So that's going to protect us from a lot of spam. So the other file we want to go ahead and take a look at is the mailer.php that this form is submitting to. So this is the one that's actually going to send an email message to us. So here you just need to set the variables at the very top of the file, and then you'll be good to go. So these 4 variables at the top are customizable, and then everything below line 22, you really don't have to mess with this code or even understand what it's doing here. But essentially what it's doing is it's getting all of the values that were posted in the form and storing them into these variable names: name, email, phone, message, and the verification image you type in. And then it essentially constructs all of the headers it needs and the body of the email. And then we use the mail method to then send an email. And we include the information such as the email we're sending to, the subject of the email, the body of the email, and the email headers. Now we're always going to check if they typed in the proper verification image. And if they did, then we're going to go ahead and send the email, and then we're going to send them to the success page. Otherwise, we're going to send them to an error page. So up here, you'll see that on line 10, it has a send to variable. So here I just have it set to the generic email address, you@yoursite.com, but you would actually set this to your particular email address. Okay, and here you can set the subject of the email. So this is the subject you will see whenever you receive the email. And here I have mine set to Exceptional Realty Contact Form Submission, but you can write whatever you like here. Now lastly, we have a variable for the success page and the error page. So here I'm pointing the success page to contact.php, and I'm also pointing the error page back to contact.php. So we're actually going to send them back to the exact same page that they had submitted the form from. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a parameter into the URL string here by saying $S for status. And we're going to set S equal to success if we've successfully sent the email, and to error if the verification image didn't match and we were unable to send the email. So in order to handle the success and the error responses, let's go ahead and jump back over to contact.php again. So I'd like to leave a message for the user if their email was successfully sent or not. So the way I'm going to do that is before the contact form here, I'll just hit return a couple times and open up some space. And what we'll do is we will say $PHP, and we're going to go ahead and create some code here. And we'll say if, and this is essentially the same type of if conditional that you can write in JavaScript. And we'll go ahead and get that S parameter out of the URL string by saying $_get S, and we'll check if it's equal to success. Okay. And we'll add a curly brace here on the end. So if it is successfully sent, we'll go ahead and show a paragraph here that says, thank you, period, your message has been sent successfully. End paragraph. And then here we can specify else if the S parameter in the URL is equal to error instead, then this time what we'll do is we will have a different paragraph. And in this case, we will say error, your message was not sent. And we'll say make sure you type in the proper verification numbers, and we'll go ahead and give them a link that they can click to get back to this form to try again, which is this page, contact.php. And we'll say click here to try again, and link. And we could say something like if issues persist, please send an email to the site admin. And then I guess you could put like your email here. It would be like the site admin's email would go here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end that paragraph. So now we've given them a substantial error message letting them know that they didn't put in the validation numbers, and give them a link they can click to bring the form back and try again. Okay, so lastly what we want to do is create the else clause here. So we'll say else. So the else is actually going to be this form. So there's only really three possibilities here. Possibility one is they've just successfully sent their message. And that'll happen if we are on the page contact.php (s equals success. Now another possibility is that they did not put in the validation numbers correctly, or there's some other error, like a bug in our code that we're not aware of. And in that case, then they will be actually on the page contact.php (s equals error). And in that situation, we will show this paragraph, which is the error message, okay, telling them how to deal with that. Now, the third possibility is that they do not have a s parameter in the URL, meaning that it's not a success or an error, but they're just visiting this page for the first time or returning to this page again to try again. Okay, and in that case, they're just going to be at contact.php, and there's not going to be an s equals inside of the URL string. So they won't have a success message or an error message. Instead, we'll just be showing them the form that they need here. So this form will really only appear when it's their first time visiting the page, or they've returned back to the page to try and put in the message again. So we'll go ahead and use PHP to end out the else condition here. So all of this code in between here is the else condition that starts at the beginning of this if conditional here. So if success, write a paragraph inside of this section. Otherwise, write a error message in the paragraph. Otherwise, just show the form so that they can try and fill out the form. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And again, because we changed the file extension from contact.html to contact.php, now we're able to insert PHP code directly into the markup like this. So in order to see this working, you're going to have to publish this up to a server that has PHP 5 installed on it. Now, fortunately, about 99% of all hosting servers that you'll purchase space on will automatically have PHP 5 installed. So this will work just about anywhere. Now you can refer to the video on site publishing in order to see how to upload this to your hosting server. So to demonstrate this, I've already uploaded this to a server. And here I have this up on my personal hosting server. And you can see that this is the verification input that we added. And over here is the JPEG verification image itself. And just to show you that this is randomly generating numbers each time we refresh the page here, we can go ahead and click refresh. And you can see that the JPEG image is actually changing. So our verification image is working there. And we still have all of the JavaScript validation on this form. For example, if I click send here, it still tells me that I have to fill in this information. So I'll say Bob Bobbert, and I'll go ahead and set the email to bob@bobbert.com. For the phone number, I'll just put in 555. And for the message, we'll say hello world. Now, just to demonstrate that the image verification is working, let's try and leave the image verification blank. So I'm going to go ahead and click send. And here I get the error message back. So here we're at the URL contact.php, and then we have (s equals error. So because it's set to error, we're actually hiding the form and showing an error message here instead. Okay, and it says click here to try again. So if I go ahead and click that, I come back to the form. Okay, so again, I'll put in Bob Bobbert, and we'll put in 555 and hello world. And this time we'll go ahead and put in the correct verification image, which is 3576. And we'll click send. Okay, great. So this time we got the message, thank you, your message has been successfully sent. And you can see our URL is actually at contact.php (s equals success). So to see if the email was sent, I can go ahead and jump over to my inbox, and I can see that there's a new message waiting for me from Bob, and it says the subject is Exceptional Realty Contact Form Submission. So if I go ahead and click on that, we can see here that it sent an email to me, and it says the name, the email of the person, their phone number, and their message. Now the nice thing about this is if I click reply, it will actually reply back to the correct email address, which is bob@bobbert.com. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to terminal and commit my code. So we're going to call get status. So we can see here that there's quite a few modified files, and there's also a deleted file because we renamed contact.html to contact.php. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git add -- all, and we'll go ahead and say git commit -am, and we'll say add PHP Mailer. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and push this guy up to origin under the branch name PHP Mailer. Okay, and that created a new branch for us with tracking. And because this is publishable, I'm going to go ahead and git checkout master, and we can merge in our changes from the PHP Mailer branch. And then we'll push those changes up to master as well.